Hello and welcome everyone to the latest episode of TGIF, also known as Thank Goodness It's Fortinet. Today we are covering two topics. We're going to talk about FortiAP and FortiPlanner. And before anybody asks, yes, I am recording today's episode, and I will actually be sending a link of the recording to everyone who's registered on today's episode. Just a quick introduction of myself. My name is Dana Mead. I am part of the Exclusive Networks team here in Miami. My particular focus is sales and business development. Just a couple quick housekeeping items before we get into the topics today. Just take a moment to check your microphone. If you're not currently muted, please do so now. We do like to avoid any background noises if possible, but we very much like to keep this an interactive discussion. So I'm going to be going through and giving everyone permission to mute and unmute themselves. But if you have questions, also please feel free to use our chat and our Q&A. I have a lot of help today. I have David Yang with me on the back end helping to answer any questions. And so we'll make sure to get everyone their answers quickly and efficiently. So just an FYI, I'm going to be posting a poll at the end of today's episode. We would really like to get your feedback on the content and delivery of our information. So if you can stay tuned for just a quick second after that, it's a couple questions. We would really love to hear how you, what you think of our content. We use that information to help formulate our content that we are developing for new sessions as well. So let's get into a little bit, real quick introduction of Exclusive Networks, who we are and what we do. David, if you can pull up those slides, thank you very much. A lot of people don't realize this, but we are actually Fortinet's #1 global distributor. We have over 62 offices worldwide and a global deals desk that handles even complicated international deals, and they handle the logistics as well. So it's a lot less for you to worry about. Plus, they also offer configuration and staging and tagging. We focus entirely on cyber and cloud security solutions. We also are highly responsive. This is a big part of what we bring to the table and what makes us unique and different in the distie world. Rapid turnaround on quotes, technical advice, configuration, and sales support. Like I mentioned, we have a boutique style value add distribution model. So we don't have 1-800 numbers and email aliases. You have direct contact and a single point of contact to all of the resources that we offer. And we also combine a specialist value add training and technical support. We also offer marketing support with the volume and reach of a global distributor. We offer extensive pre-sales support and to help build qualified leads and close deals. We offer Fortinet NSE certification and training plus group or one-on-one trainings. That's either in person or online, such as TGIF. A range of financing and leasing services are available to help you cover every IT project, requirement, and technology. And we also have a solid and growing list of vendor partners that are all chosen specifically to integrate with Fortinet Security Fabric. So we're excited to mix things up a little bit this Friday. We actually have two presenters from Fortinet that will be delivering today's presentation. Allow me to introduce Ed Holtz and Kevin Lowe. Ed is a Fortinet sales manager and is part of Americas for the Secure Wireless and Access Technologies Group. Ed has spent many of his years with world-class companies from Compaq, Intel, Ruckus Wireless, Aruba, HPE, and now Fortinet. Ed will be covering the slides and the training material for today's episode. And then we also have Kevin. Kevin has 25 years in the IT industry, holding various engineering positions such as customer engineer and systems engineer. And he's worked with GE, IBM, Nortel, Aruba, Maru, and now Fortinet. And he will actually be covering the demo after today's presentation. So Ed, I will pass it on to you.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Dana, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, let me share my screen here. First of all, David, thanks for inviting us, and you too, Dana. I'm not sure we can compete with Bruno Mars for those that joined earlier. I think it really is going to get us all ready for the weekend. But thanks for allowing us to participate in this TGIF partner presentation webinar, and thank you partners for joining today. What we're going to talk about really is the 5 key elements of secure access. Kevin and I are part of a group called SWAT, which is called Secure Wireless and Access Technology. So a quick look at the agenda is just a quick introduction. We're going to talk about the 5 key elements. Kevin's going to do a demo, really mostly on APs and kind of highlight on the switches. We're going to do a quick introduction to FortiPresence and then FortiPlanner, as Dana had said. Again, I mentioned we're part of a group called Secure Wireless and Access Technology. It's a group within Fortinet, and we focus on a number of technologies. The biggest ones is switching and wireless. I wanted to let you know that part of our team, we have actually over 200 engineers, development engineers, part of that team. Our switches are in triple-digit growth. It's the fastest growing product within our portfolio line. We are in our E series, or E generation. I would consider that 5th generation of switches. And we have a full family of access points. We've actually sold to thousands of customers and sold over 4,000 access points within Fortinet. So it's really a large group within Fortinet. This kind of gives you just a quick synopsis of why we're well positioned to lead the 3rd generation of network security. If you kind of look at it, firewalls 25 years ago were they were limited to applications, were limited, and they were actually just to protect the connections. As firewalls originally started, they were mostly called stateful firewalls. Fortinet then, with the application data becoming more rich, it became necessary to inspect the content and not just allow people to get on the network. So we pioneered the UTM and content inspection. And then we also built our purpose-built security processors to help us with that function. Now that the security threats are even more threatening to all of us, Fortinet has really moved to the what I would call the 3rd generation of network security. And we created the next generation firewall to take that fundamental infrastructure security down to every switch port or every SSID in the network itself. So we're extending security right down to the fabric, to the infrastructure level. You guys have probably heard about the security fabric. It's really what we call a broad, integrated, and automated. From a broad perspective, we want to protect everything from the Internet of Things to the cloud, or from that client to the data center. We're also integrated. We want to encompass advanced technologies to detect zero-day and unknown threats that may be applied anywhere in the network. And then we want to be automated. So we want to have a fast response to problems in the network and remediation. And they need to be and continuous trust assessments. What's really cool about that, in the fabric itself, we actually call out our APs and switches. That's how important it is to be a part of the network. And that important. So the 5 key elements of secure access: you must have a certified next generation firewall. We want to eliminate complexity within the network. A lot of our competitors talk about software-defined network. When we talk about software and security-defined networking, we want to give you end-to-end visibility. If that's not enough for you, we want to have everything automated, like I mentioned earlier. So as we move into secure and access, most of the competitors today, they haven't really combined either of those 2 technologies. If you look at the access side, there's many vendors out there that provide access points. They become kind of a commodity type environment, and there's a list of them on the far left or the far right. On the far left, we have a few vendors that actually provide security, the firewall companies. None of them have really taken and combined both secure and access, taking the best of security and access and combining them together. Fortinet's the only one that has done that. And we do that with our certified next generation firewall, and we control the access layer. And we'll talk more about that here in a few seconds. As you guys know, there's a number of companies out there, whether it's Gartner Magic Quadrant that looks at these technologies. I wanted to kind of highlight the NSS Labs, which is unparalleled third-party certifications. If you look at it today, this is where NSS Labs takes products from our company and other companies and actually test them for security effectiveness, performance, and value to the customer. And we've received more third-party, unparalleled, recommended solutions compared to some of the alternatives out there. Also, Gartner Magic Quadrant from a wired and wireless LAN perspective. Last year, we enjoyed winning Customer's Choice Award for wired and wireless LAN access. We want to eliminate complexity with the firewall. Traditional access layer has been very complex. Most companies have anywhere between 32 and 50 different platforms to manage their network. We want to eliminate that complexity. So we're taking multiple point solutions and platforms, management consoles, and we're collapsing them all into the firewall. So all these different technologies into one firewall. With that said, we have a switch manager and a WLAN controller built in at no additional charge to manage those technologies, and Kevin's going to show you that here in a little bit. So we've consolidated everything. What happens for your customer? They have a lower CapEx, OpEx, less training for their personnel, and even less personnel to manage their environment. So if you had to deploy a switch and an AP using a gate, so on the far left is the gate, in the middle is the switch, and on the far right is access points, you can actually just take the APs and switches right out of the box and plug them right into the gate. The gate will recognize it, and you can click them as trusted devices, and now you can manage, monitor, and set up and configure the network. From a stackable perspective, that gate might have 24 switch ports where you can apply policies to any one of those switch ports. But if you add more switches to the network, very easily, you can check those different switches, stack them, whatever, and add them to the network. And now they become part of that. And you're extending security out to every switch port of the network. Not only the switches or the ports on the gate, but every switch port and every SSID in the network. Very, very easy to do. And you can do this all, configured all from a single interface. So your VLANs, your quality of service, your RF settings, your VLANs, all that can be configured from one interface. Again, making it very, very easy to do. And then the last thing is you can include all your security policies from that gate across that network, across that infrastructure. So you can set up your policies. You can enforce those policies across the network, right, to every switch port or every SSID in the network. So one example would be if you wanted to block Facebook on the network, you'd easily do that. But if you wanted O365 to allow it, you could easily do that. Again, from one interface, makes it very, very easy to do. A lot of our competitors talk about software-defined network. We actually talk about software and security-defined networks. It's a little bit different. What we want to do, we actually call it SDN squared, and we want to leverage the best of what the FortiGate has and apply policies across the entire network. We want to eliminate static configurations and policies, and Kevin will be able to show that in his demo. But no matter where you join, there's a gate, a switch, and an AP here. Whether that user joins, whether wireless or wired, it doesn't matter what median, the gate can recognize who the user is, what device they have, and where they can go, and apply them to the appropriate, here, it'll come up here in a second, on the far right, the appropriate VLAN, application control, web filter policy, access control. So all this is a comprehensive network of control and focused across the network. Here's another example. If you had universal wired ports, you kind of move away from those static configurations where if you told somebody to go plug a printer port or printer into port 22 and it didn't work, you meant to tell them to plug it into port 23. You really don't have to do that. So in this example, these are wired ports. I've got VLAN ID, voice, video, teacher, students, guests, whatever. All ports are going to be configured the same way. VLANs are going to be assigned based on the device or the user that connects. And so you have these different devices, and no matter where they connect on the network, the gate's going to recognize them and apply the right policy. If it doesn't recognize them, then it can remediate that and move that into a guest VLAN if you wanted it to. Here's what's really cool from a software-defined and security-defined network. You can move these switches around and then replug these in anywhere you want. And then again, the gate would recognize what that device is and apply them into the right VLAN. So that's from a wired perspective. And let's look at the wireless side. If you took a bunch of SSIDs, here's an example. You've got teacher SSID going to VLAN 60, students going to 50, admin going to 30, on, and then you've got your guest VLAN at 100. What we want to try to do is consolidate all these SSIDs and make it very, very easy. So we take those top 4 and consolidate them into still a VLAN 100, but let's call it campus VLAN. So if we know what the device is and the user, we can apply them to the right VLAN with the right privileges, let's just say. End-to-end visibility. I think most of the partners here have been on the gate. They understand the gate. They've been using the gate. So I'm going to go through this very, very quickly, but really you're going to get end-to-end visibility. You know about the FortiView, where you can get a physical topology view. You can hover over these different devices and see what they are. You can see actually in our latest software, you can see a wireless floor plan. You can see the APs placed on there. You can see the different radios, channel utilization, how many users on there. You can actually do some troubleshooting from the screen. Bandwidth control, so you can see the source and destination of bandwidth, some more sources. We can even see all the applications. You could actually see what the applications are being used now, 5 minutes from now, 1 hour in the last 24 hours. End-to-end visibility. The other thing that's really cool is you've got the threat map from FortiGate Labs built into the system. Real quickly, if that's not enough for you and your customers, we have the automated piece, which is pretty exciting. So indicators of compromise, you can use the power of FortiGate Labs, and they can actually scan the network, scan the different devices. If they find something that's infected or highly suspicious, they can analyze it for risk, and they can actually notify you of that. How does it do it? If a device is detected to be compromised anywhere in the security fabric, then the APs and switches can actually quarantine that user and put them in a remediated VLAN if you want, or make them just allow them go to the internet. They can't be on the network. So what's really cool about that, if there's a compromised device out there, they're really no longer a threat to the network. So some of this is kind of a really quick benefit summary. We call this the integrated access solution. Using the FortiGate and our APs and switches, it's really going to give you a lot of security control and traffic visibility. Also SSL inspection. Obviously our competitors can't do that. That's really unique to a wireline controller. Ability to do fast deployments, less resources, less room. Your customers already have a gate. It might be nice to go out there and start talking to them about switches and AP, because it's a system. It works together. Product specifics, I want to just kind of jump into the AP since that's what this presentation is about. We actually have 2-stream, 3-stream, 4-stream, indoor, outdoor, point-to-point, point-to-multi-point. We've got APs with internal antennas, APs with external antennas. We even have a wall plate AP for maybe those dorm rooms or MDUs type environments. Want to introduce a new AP that's coming out. It just hit our price sheet. This is really cool. It's the Universal 431. It actually has 3 radios in it. What I like about it is you can configure these radios. Radio number 1 could be 5 gigahertz. Radio number 2 could be 2.4 gigahertz. And then the third radio could be scanning. If you want to do it mode 2, you could have 2 5 gigahertz. We've just doubled the density of 5 gigahertz radios. And then you could have a scanning radio. And then the third mode would be 2 5 gigahertz and then a 2.4 radio. So it's a really cool radio. It also has Bluetooth. If you need Bluetooth, that fourth radio is Bluetooth. But this is 802.11ax. It's called the Universal U430. We have a 431 and a 433F. So just kind of recapping before I turn to Kevin to do the demo. It's 5 key elements of secure access. We really, truly believe that you need that certified next generation firewall. We already talked about that. You need to eliminate complexity in your network. We talked about software and security defined network. We want visibility and control, and then everything's automated. So if there's a threat in the network at 4 o'clock in the morning, you can be notified about it, and it can take action automatically. I want to introduce FortiPresence. FortiPresence is a cloud-based application that works with our system. It's on a per AP basis. It can do location analytics, which is basically a specific sitemap, and you can track behavior of users getting in the network. Whether they connect to the network or not, we can see the beacons and probes from the phone that they have, and we can track them wherever they go, in the network. We have some presence analytics, so we can see where they go anywhere in the network. Social authentication. If the users actually connect to them, now we can provide influence and connect with them like through email and that kind of thing, and they can now be our customer. We can see demographics like how many people are in the store, when they came, when the busiest times are, the duration that they stay in the store. Did they go to store 1? Did they go to store 10? Kind of, that's an example. And then we have all the reporting and dashboards that are available. But I want to introduce this to you. It's Kevin's going to kind of show you the interface, but we're actually going to do a whole session on this in one of the future TGIF webinars. But we want to introduce it to you. The other thing that we have is FortiPlanner. This is your RF prediction tool. You can basically import a floor plan. You can assign attenuation factors to the outer walls, to the inner walls, and we can actually calculate Wi-Fi coverage. You can place APs on the map and see what that signal strength is. It actually has a built-in PDF report generator, so you can see on the 2.4, the 5 gigahertz, you can see a lot of different things. The one thing that's nice about this, it's a free download. If you guys want it, this predictive tool, it's free up to 10 APs. If you go to Fortinet.com, go to the support tab, go to the product downloads, and then you'll see FortiPlanner. So again, Fortinet.com, go to the support tab, you'll see product downloads, and under there, one of them will be FortiPlanner. If you need to do more than 10 APs, then we have it available on our Fortinet Developer Network. When you get that copy of that version, it gives you the ability to do actually physical site surveys too with the product. So that's really all I had today. I'd like to turn it over to Kevin, and Kevin can kind of show you a couple of things on how this all works.
All right, thank you, Ed. Let me share my desktop here. Okey-doke. Oops, that's not the right screen. This is the one you want to see. So, can you guys all see my screen and hear me okay?
I can see it.
Yes,
Awesome.
very good.
Excellent. So, like Ed said, this is basically a teaser. I know he made reference that we're going to do a more extensive session in a TGIF to follow, but I wanted to give you at least a little taste for this this FortiPresence Wi-Fi analytics tool. It's cloud-based, and it works off all of our platforms, cloud, infrastructure, and integrated. So basically, it sends a location feed up to the cloud. That information is processed relative to the Wi-Fi analytics, and then it's all accessible through a GUI. So this is an example of the Presence dashboard here. And like Ed said, or maybe he didn't, there's a free version that's accessible for your folks to try. They can create accounts and put toe in the water, kind of, so to speak. All we need is Fortinet product, and it will work with any of that product. And then there's a paid for tier that leverages a few additional capacities that might be more interesting from a marketing perspective. So just wanted to introduce that. And like I said, we'll be diving into this quite a bit more deeply in a future session. So, all right. So here's what we're here to talk about. All of you on the phone should be, or most of you should be, familiar with the FortiGate. kind of look and feel. I know Ed said that there was a wireless and a switch controller in every FortiGate. All those pieces and functionality live under this tab here. I believe there was a preceding switch topic for TGIF. So we're going to touch on that just briefly, maybe refresh some memories and provide a segue into how we would introduce APs into this infrastructure. So if you recall, from a FortiGate perspective, the protocol is called FortiLink, and basically that's what's enabling us to see and manage and configure all of those switches and APs on down the line. So basically you configure the FortiLink interface, depending on the gate. If it's smaller than a 100, you are limited to physical port, software switch, which I would not recommend because it hits the CPU entirely, and hardware switch. So a little more simplistic with respect to design. It's a linear form of design, or perhaps multiple ports in a hardware switch that are attached to the gate. But all in all, very effective. And the look and feel from a management perspective is the same. Once you get to the 100 and above, we can do more extensive topologies. We can support redundancy. We can support active-active. So you know, we can do more designs like this at scale, and this extends all the way up through the product line that we have. So once that's in place, typically people define VLANs or a common VLAN, and then basically the introduction of APs comes about like this. So in the definition of the VLAN, you can elect to have it dole out some attributes like IP address. You govern or you determine the access that goes to and from that from an administrative standpoint. And in order to tie on access points, we need to turn on this right here, CapWAP. So industry standard protocol relative to configuration and wireless management. So just that little tick box right there on the VLAN will enable us to plug in an access point and have it find the FortiGate in this configuration. So once it does, the FortiGate sees the access point, and then it builds a construct like a parent group, if you will, based on the AP type. So you can plug in multiple APs, and the FortiGate will build a profile for each one. This profile's basically designed to govern, you know, attributes, number of radios, channels it can broadcast on, things of that nature, power levels, etc. You're at liberty to modify that parent group. You can change any of these attributes, and then use this group to govern, you know, how that AP will function. Let's see, as we scroll down through here, I mean, things like, you know, channel width, channels that it can actually make use of, load balancing between spectrum and APs, power control, SSIDs if they're automatically attributed or manually attributed, you know, things of that nature. And then you notice down here, this is relatively new, this location-based services piece. This is where it kind of hooks back into FortiPresence that we talked about, and that we'll talk about further. And there's a few, just a few configurations relative to FortiPresence. Once you create an account, you put in these attributes that are specific to your account. You have a secret key, IP address and port that the probe requests are sent to, and then all of that information is accessible from the web interface. And we'll get into that, you know, in a future session. But I just wanted to make reference. That actually lives in the AP profile from a configuration standpoint. All right, so we've got our APs plugged in. They'll show up on this screen under Managed APs. This will be grayed out, and there'll be an Authorize button here. And the reason for that is we don't want everybody just walking up and plugging in APs to the network. This is a secure network, and we want to make sure things are authorized and permitted. So once you authorize the AP, it will come online. It will knit itself into the topology, which you can view here. You know, see the VLAN that it's on. how many radios it has. If you've configured SSIDs and they're automatically attributed, say this is the second, third, fourth AP, they can inherit those automatically or not. And we'll get into that in just a minute. And then some other interesting attributes relative to the radios that are in use, the channels they're on, if there's any clients currently on, and you can even upgrade the access point from here if you so choose. So you're not relegated to matching firmware versions on the AP to those running on the FortiGate. Most people don't just want to upgrade their firewall on a frequent basis, but that may not be the case for certain APs. That may be a little more frequent, and you're at liberty to upgrade those APs whenever you like. You'll notice here, excuse me, that the parent profile is this one, the default profile, but that some of the attributes have been overridden. So you can use the parent profile to govern all the attributes or most of the attributes of an AP, and then you can elect to be more specific, if you like, relative to certain locations. Maybe I want more power in a particular location, or I only want certain SSIDs on a particular AP, right? Or I want to let the power govern itself automatically. So things of that nature. So again, you can override any attribute that you want on a per AP basis, and it takes precedence by virtue of the fact that it's a more specific instruction from an AP perspective. So once the APs are plugged in, switches are plugged in, everything's humming along. I know Ed made reference to visualization. So this is a real-time topology view from the FortiGate perspective of what's connected to the network. Now this is a little simplistic lab, so it's pretty simple and pretty easy. And frankly, you could just mouse over this stuff and get some attributes relative to switch type, status, software that's running, how it's connected, things of that nature. Access points up, access points down, clients. So this is all well and good for a small network. If I want to, well, if I have a larger network and I'm looking for something, client, based on any of these attributes that you can see right now, I can start typing in and it does incremental search. So I don't even have to know the entire attribute, like the whole MAC address. I could use a partial MAC, or I can use a partial name, like this, TAN. So it'll show me all of those matches. If there are multiples, it'll show me all the matches. And as I get more specific, it'll go down to that more specific client or device or whatever it is I'm searching for. So you can see and find things very quickly, very easily. Now this is from a physical perspective. I can also do it from a logical perspective. So I can see things like my SD-WAN interface. I can see VLANs. I could see SSIDs. Again, same premise, same concept. Searchable, mouse over, all of those are received in the same manner. If I'm passing out IP addresses from the gate, I can see, and manage all of those from here. I could set reservations as needed. I can see my Wi-Fi clients, in real time. Depending on the authentication method in use, I may or may not get the user ID. So things like captive portal or radius-based authentication provides user. Things like pre-shared key do not. So mileage may vary there depending on your authentication method of choice. So one really important thing that I glean from the Fortinet attached folks is signal to noise ratio. So a client may have a strong signal and they may say, hey, I'm looking at 3 bars or 4 bars here. But you go and look at the ratio relative to the noise and you see that it's low, and the problem is, interfering APs, video streaming, something of that nature that's intruding upon them. So this is a useful tool, a useful area that you can go look at. Another thing of interest, rogue APs. So it'll show me, and this is pretty clean. Again, I'm in a basement lab, so there's not a whole lot going on here from an interference perspective. But the things of interest are, like right here, it shows me what's interfering with what I'm running in production, and where, and to the degree. So just because it's interfering doesn't mean it's causing a problem. You can see that this level is extremely low, and it's calling it out, but it's not really problematic. And then overarching, there's some basic information provided on a global basis relative to the number of active clients, AP status up or down, channel utilization, client count on both spectrums, people that are having issues relative to login, or again, wireless interference. So things of that nature that are usually top of mind for the administrators. So that's really what I wanted to show today. I'll go ahead and pause and pass the ball back to David or Ed. Let's see. Whoops. That's not what I want. Let's see. All right. So I'll pause here and see if there's any questions or what we'd like to do from this point.
Yeah, we've had a quiet group today. We've been answering some questions in the chat. But again, I'm going to be emailing everyone that's registered for today's event. Today's episode, and you'll get a recording of today's episode, and you'll also get the part of the presentation that was used if we're able to make that available. So I'll send that out to everyone as well. Just a couple resources that we have up here. This is all, probably pretty common for most of you. Just some good resources to find some good information as well. And then also we're going to put up a slide that has all of our contact information. We want you guys to feel really comfortable to reach out to us and contact us as well. Reed is our vendor business development manager for Fortinet here with Exclusive Network. So he's a very great resources that Exclusive Network offers. Myself as well, and David Yang, and of course support _US is a great point of contact for any and all technical support that you would need with Fortinet, and we can definitely get you taken care of. So we really hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'm going to actually post my poll right now. We would love to get your feedback. Again, your feedback is how we formulate new content and new subjects that we want to cover in the future based on what you want to see, and also how are we delivering the content. Very important information to us, and so please just take 2 nanoseconds out of your day and answer that poll, and I would be eternally grateful. I want to thank Ed and Kevin, guys. Great presentation, great information. We loved having you. We hope you can join us again in the near future. That would be fantastic. Everybody, again, thank you so much for joining us today. I'll go ahead and leave the webinar open in case you have any questions. We'll be answering those for a few more minutes. And have a great weekend, and TGIF, everybody. Thank you so much.